everyone. I just wanted to come on here and just share a little bit real quick. So, I have been in a period of just reset, recovery, just trying to heal myself mentally, physically, after just enduring so much over the last couple of years or so. And even some things from long before that I thought was over, but it wasn't. So I've just been in this mode of just reset and recovery, right? So to reset and to recover, I had just started going back to doing the things that I enjoy doing, watching movies that I had enjoyed watching. I have comfort movies, comfort shows. So I will go and watch Mrs. Doubtfire, Matilda, things like that, just to remind me of my childhood. It's nostalgic, and it would just remind me of my childhood or just put me in a place of just happiness, right? So I was sitting here thinking one day, and I was thinking about the movie Dreamgirls. And I love Dreamgirls. I probably know all of the lines by heart. It's always been one of my favorite movies since it came out. And for those who have not seen Dreamgirls, Dreamgirls is a fictional story that's loosely based on the rise of girl groups during the Motown era. All right, so the Supremes and the Marvelettes, those types of groups, right? And so, all right, so like many stories about the entertainment industry, it discusses the ambition, the rejection, the favoritism, the betrayal, and the cost of success that usually comes with your rise in the entertainment business or showbiz, right? So as I was thinking about it, something stood out to me. So before we continue, let me just be clear. I'm talking about the fictional characters in the movie. I'm not talking about those actual people. So I'm not actually talking about Beyonce. I'm not actually talking about Jennifer Hudson. I'm just talking about their fictional characters in the movie, right? And I'm just using this to give an illustration. It's going to tie together in a second, so just let me cook, all right? So in the beginning, there were three gifted women. There was Dina, there was Effie, and there was Laurel. They each had incredible talent, and originally they shared the spotlight all together, so they would just rotate with who was sing lead, and they had fun with it. It was fun, right? But as their careers grew and as they got in more up into trying to get discovered, management decided that Dina would become the permanent lead singer. Not because Effie wasn't gifted, she arguably had one of the better voices, they were the stronger voices. But Dina fit the image they believed audiences wanted to see, so she was more palatable. She had the look, right? So eventually, this caused Effie to walk away. She felt overlooked, rejected, and even replaced at some point, right? Her pain became bigger than her purpose. Her pain became greater than her purpose. So later on in the movie, Effie has a conversation with Curtis about everything she's been through. After hearing her out, Curtis responds with that infamous line that everyone loves to recite: Effie, we all got pain. That line made me stop and think. It reminded me of something that sometimes happens in the church setting, right? So too often, people would choose leaders based on their appearance, their personality, their popularity, their platform, or the way they seem to be polished instead of their spiritual fruit. Sometimes we become more concerned with who looks the part rather than whether someone carries the heart of God. And scripture does remind us that people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And that's found in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. The world celebrates presentation, and we see it all the time. We see it all over social media. If you just look good, you can get away with a lot of stuff, right? And in the spirit realm, God examines the heart. So sometimes those who carry the deepest oil, they may not always fit that particular image that people would expect. And then here's the other side of the story, right? So sometimes we're Effie, right? Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes we're rejected. Sometimes someone is telling us that we're not enough. And instead of asking God what he says about us, we take on those things and we allow another person's opinion to determine our value. We become so wounded that we walk away from the very thing that God assigned us, right? And I just want to lovingly remind you all of something. That is a subtle form of people pleasing, right? So if someone is in your ear and telling you you're not good enough, and then your natural reaction is to say, you know what, you're right, I'm just going to sit down, I'm not going to say anything, that is low key people pleasing, because you're pleasing that person who's telling you in your ear something that is contrary to what God is saying to you, right? So when another person's acceptance becomes more important than God's calling, we've given people the authority they were never meant to have in the first place. So if you think about it, Effie never stopped being gifted. She just stopped singing. She never stopped having the voice. She just stopped using it. She never stopped carrying what only she could carry. Other people's inability to recognize her gift, it never changed the gift itself. The same is true for you. God placed something in you that no one else can duplicate. No one else can replicate. No matter how hard they try, they can't steal it. They can't be you. You don't have to preach like everyone else. You don't even have to create like everyone else. You don't have to build your ministry like anyone else. The gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable, and that's according to Romans chapter 11, verse 29. What God placed in you wasn't canceled because someone failed to recognize it. I believe God is raising up people with fresh oil, not people who simply know how to perform and just look the part, right? Not people who have the perfected appearances, but people whose hearts who have been healed enough for Him to trust them in their influence, right? Because ministry without healing, it just becomes performative. If you really haven't dealt with the things that you've experienced, if you really haven't dealt with the trauma, if you haven't dealt with what someone was saying in your ear, you're just putting on a mask. You're just performing, okay? Because you're still carrying all that stuff, and it's in your heart, and it means that your heart is not pure. All right, so, but ministry with born from healing, rather, it becomes freedom for you and the people God sends to you, right? So I've been in healing for quite some time. Healing is never, it really feels like a never ending process. It never ends. I've been in therapy off and on since I was 19 years old. I'm now about to be 38. It's never ending. But because I'm constantly in the process, I'm constantly healing, I'm always actively working on bettering myself, making myself better, making sure my mind and my heart and my spirit is healthier, not just for me, but for the children that I'm raising, for the people that God assigned to me. It's important. So I just want to leave you with this one question, right? How many more times will you allow your pain to convince you to abandon what God has called you to build? All right. Your rejection doesn't cancel God's assignment. People, they're going to overlook you. People, they're going to misunderstand you. They may even try to replace you. It all comes with the territory. But if God called you, you must stay planted, because what God has for you cannot be taken by another person. It can only be surrendered if you walk away. So if you give up and forfeit your gift, forfeit your right to serve the Lord, someone else is going to try to pick it up, and they're going to try to mimic you, and it won't be the same. And then we have a population of people out here who needed what you have and never received it. So understand that your gift is not just about you. It's about the person who may need to hear what you have to say. And you don't have to be the perfect person. You don't have to be perfectly healed. Actively working on being healed is necessary, but you don't have to feel like you've reached a point where, oh, I'm just completely healed. No, some of the best testimonies come out of people who are still working through it, and people need to feel like they can relate to you. I am constantly in therapy, constantly in prayer, constantly in my word, constantly trying to do better. It's all about having that willingness to want to work on you. You can't just skip over that and think you're just gonna just be some mega superstar, because then you're operating out of ego. All throughout the Bible, God has used the most unusual suspects to do His work. They didn't always look the part. They had things that they were going through. They had things that they were struggling with. But as long as they had a genuine heart for God, He used them, and they allowed Him to use them. So keep that in mind. Stay encouraged, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.